So today, lads, we are going to be talking about Kelsey Plum, talking about the WNBA referees. And shout out to Robin Lundberg. We are going to be reacting to this, but shout out to Robin for obviously asking the question, getting the answer, and go subscribe to his YouTube channel. He's like, we cover similar enough topics. He's just a lot less unhinged. He's a lot less unhinged. He's a lot less media trained. And let's be real, he's probably better in front of the old camera now, isn't he? He's, I'm really sending all you guys away, aren't I? Oh, the amount of shit I posted over the last year, probably should have already done that. But anyway, let's get on to it. We got Kelsey Plum right here. Let's listen to what she has said.
In the amount of contact that's allowed on the perimeter has been a topic of conversation. It was brought up on the ESPN broadcast. It's been a gripe from you, from Becky Hammond, from Stephanie White. What do you see as the biggest issue there and how it could be resolved?
I'm grateful you asked this. Yeah. I have no problem with the physicality.
I love how she literally goes, basically, thank you for asking this.
I think people are getting frustrated at the consistency.
I think she'd rather there not be the physicality. They've tried, they shove her as well. She doesn't get hit quite as far away from the basket as Caitlin Clark, so it's not as obvious. But they are very physical with her as well. They are physical. And that's one of the problems when it comes to why it's more... Everyone's like, oh, it happens to every guard, not just Caitlin. It's like, yeah, it's a problem with every guard. It's just more noticeable with Caitlin because they do it further away from the basket. Like, Caitlin gets shoved on an island 45 feet from the basket. Like, it's very noticeable when that happens. It's a lot more noticeable when that happens than when players are being physical inside the paint or close to the three-point line.
So it's like a ticky-tack here, and then someone gets absolutely assaulted over here.
That's as good a way of describing it. I've always called it, they will ignore a hack and call a phantom foul.
And like, where's the line? And when do we call it? And why do we call it? And I also think, too, like, a lot of teams specifically play me very physical, which I get, just to try to, like, wear me down throughout the game. But a foul is a foul. So a foul in the first quarter is a foul in the fourth quarter.
Not according to these refs. That's honestly how the Fever... Why the Fever and Sun game is the best example of that. Like, they roughed up Caitlin Clark early. And I don't mean that in like a they tried to hurt her way. I just mean they were overly physical with her. They were hacking her. And through 3 quarters, they were getting away with it. Caitlin was struggling. She was struggling with the physicality. She was playing injured anyway, so she was struggling with the physicality while playing injured. And then in the fourth quarter, every single touch was a foul, and suddenly she's on the free throw line. Suddenly, the Indiana Fever spend the fourth quarter in the free throw line because they actually refereed the game properly in the fourth quarter, which is, in my opinion, they should have done for minute 1, but you can't just start refereeing the game properly in the fourth quarter. It doesn't really work like that because a team that's used to playing a certain level of physicality through 3 quarters and then suddenly in the fourth quarter they can't play that physicality, like that's not the way it should work.
And so it's like, hey, if you're not going to call it in the first, that's fine, but don't call it in the fourth, or let me guard them that way that they guard me. And so I think that just the officiating across the board, people have been frustrated with the lack of consistency. And so that, I do think that the refs, similar to a player, like if I don't play well and I'm being evaluated, I'm penalized for that.
I mean, penalized in a way of like your coach giving out to you. Like, you're not really penalized for playing badly if you're a player. And honestly, what we've seen with the Fever, you're not really penalized if you refuse to play.
The ref, they're not as penalized as we are. They don't get necessarily like it's like, oh, we review it, but like those 3 calls change the game, and like that's it. And so I think it's part of our sport. You have to be resilient and accept it, but at the same time, I think they have to also grow, and the communication between the league, like the NBA comes out and says like, hey, in the fourth quarter with these 2 calls, we missed both of these. I think that's really important for our league to grow in terms of its integrity, because like it should be like, hey, listen, the Alyssa Thomas with the Valkyries, like that's not a foul.
Yeah, right.
Come out and say it.
Right.
And like, she's not wrong. She's not wrong. And like, I stand by this. I understand money-wise it's hard. But like, last 2-minute reports, proper sports criticism and proper sports like evaluation. Like, all of these things where like some players, like a Candace Parker argument, when it's a purely basketball argument, I will stand by these players trying to demand more respect from a purely basketball standpoint, because they should. There are too many people watching these games for them to not get the sporting respect that they deserve. Let's be honest. let's be honest, more people are watching the WNBA to watch basketball than ever before. In college, you've got Sarah Strong, you've got Juju, you've got Aaliyah Chavez, you've got look, I don't think AZ Fudd's anything spectacular. I do think AZ Fudd's good. I don't think she's spectacular, but you've got all of these players. You've just got everything going really well for women's basketball. And I stand by this, regardless of the money. Like, that is a different argument, and that's way above my pay grade. But on a basketball standpoint, I do like when Kelsey Plum, her basically just being like, look, in other leagues, they do this. They actually hold referees accountable. We got to do that. Like, calling out the refs just to make sure the standard of basketball improves. Because at the end of the day, the league goes where the basketball goes. Yes, there's this hype there at the minute. But long term, the league goes where the sport goes. The league goes where basketball goes. And that's it. That's it. The league is going to go where basketball goes. And if basketball does not end up being if basketball doesn't end up being the main purpose of all this and the main goal of all this, I think in general, it is, the league is never going to survive. And as long as the arguments are always basketball, it's a positive thing. And realistically, unless the referees sort themselves out, the basketball is never going to be to the forefront, because the talk comes about referees, and then the talk is, are these players jealous of Caitlin Clark because they're tactically overly physical with her? They are tactically being overly physical because the referees are going to allow them. Like this, it starts and ends. It starts and ends with the referees, realistically. It starts and ends with that. And we are now we're not talking about basketball because of that. I think in general, if we just purely talked about if the referees did their jobs, a lot of these players are trying to hurt Caitlin, these players are violent and all this stuff. I think a lot of that stops if the players just got called for fouls and they were being punished on the court. Because let's be real. Marina Mabry knew she could knock Caitlin on her ass and the refs weren't going to call it. Kennedy Carter knew she could do it and the refs weren't going to call it. Actually, Kennedy Carter does whatever the hell she wants. Last year, Sophie Cunningham threw a blind elbow into the Fever's huddle. Knew she was going to get away with it. Players hit Caitlin with a landing zone foul a game. They know they're going to get away with it. They shove Caitlin full court. They know they're going to get away with it. And Caitlin is not the only example of this, by the way. I'm just making this a point that it's not the players want to hurt Caitlin. It's the players they just want to slow her down. And it's the same with Kelsey Plum. But obviously, the conversation isn't the same around Kelsey Plum because there's not the same fanfare around Kelsey Plum. I'm just talking about how, in general, her point about the referees is, in general, for the league, absolutely destroying it. And I think a lot of the majorly negative narratives around the league can be solved. Can absolutely be solved by fixing the referees. By fixing the refs and making sure guards are allowed to, move. But anyway, I'll see you guys.